Hello everyone, it's a delight to be in front of all of you for yet another session. And this one is especially close to my heart because this is a session where I'm going to talk about a skill without which it is practically impossible to succeed in today's world. So this was a problem that I faced almost 10-15 years back, wherein I used to constantly have issues with my communication ability. So when I say communication, it's not just about being fluent in English and talking in English alone, but in general as well. It could be any language, anything that you want to communicate. It was basically a problem wherein I was not effectively coming across as to what I wanted to say. So a lot of you reached out to us asking as to how you can look at improving your communication skills, and this session is dedicated to all our students who basically requested for an improvement in their communication skills. And I'm going to talk about essentially 6 tips which are going to help you boost your communication skills and become a master communicator if followed effectively. So what we're going to talk about today is basically called as the 21st century classy hacks. So what are we waiting for? Let's jump right in. Now, what is this classy? So classy essentially refers to a very simple mnemonic which can basically help you overcome your weaknesses as far as communication is concerned and help you become a master communicator. Each alphabet in classy refers to a particular thing that you need to follow, and if followed to the T, you will start seeing tremendous results in your communication. So that's the intent of this particular session. Let's start off with the first C that we are talking about. So the C of classy refers to the most important aspect in anyone's life, which is confidence. Now, what do I mean by confidence in the context of speaking? I basically say that irrespective of how your English is, how your grammar is, what communicates effectively to the other person on the other side is how confidently are you able to talk. So don't be hassled or bothered about the grammar or the context, or are you using the right kind of phrases and all those things. What matters is that you should be able to communicate what you want to say, and even if there is a problem with the grammar and other things, let others be the judge of that. Let's not bother ourselves with that at this point of time. So the most important thing and the biggest fear in everyone's mind when they're trying to communicate with someone is, अरे what I'm trying to say, will this other person understand? मैं क्या बोलने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ, क्या उनको समझ में आएगा कि नहीं? अगर मैंने कुछ ग्रामर में गलती कर दी या मैंने सेंटेंस स्ट्रक्चर में कुछ गलती कर दिया, will this person misinterpret me or will they start laughing at me? So just get rid of that fear, because at the end of the day, if you start thinking about what others are thinking about you, it's not going to help you get anywhere. So the most important skill as far as effective communication is concerned is to have the faith in your abilities, have the faith that you can communicate effectively and not really be bothered about the grammar and the context and those things at this stage. Because confidence is probably the most important skill, and a skill which is lacking in a lot of people who are actually good communicators. But the only reason why they're not communicating effectively is that they lack faith in their abilities. They lack faith and they feel that people may laugh at you. Just forget about that. Confidence is the most important element. Have faith in your abilities, have faith in what you're communicating, and have faith that what you're trying to communicate from your heart hits the heart of the other person. That's what is the most important thing, and the only thing that can help you get there is through confidence. That's the first basic acronym, right? That's the C that I'm referring to. So now moving on to the next element of the acronym, which is the alphabet L. So it refers to something which is exceptionally important in effective communication, and it works in 2 ways. Firstly, we're talking about listening and watching, right? And that is basic to your great communication skills. So if your first angle that I'm talking about is if you're looking to improve your communication in any language, be it English, Hindi, Urdu, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, whatever it is, Marathi, whatever language that you pick up, and even if it's international languages, be it French or German, what you need to do is pick up your role models. Pick up your role models and listen to them. Watch them, right? So when I say listen to them, what exactly are you doing? Listen to the pronunciations, listen to the way they're using the words, listen to the way they're basically using the intonations, the voice going up, the voice coming down. All these things matter a lot, right? So you look at the different aspects of their communication by listening to them. And this could be happening through podcasts. This could happen through listening to TED Talks. This could happen listening to role models like, say, a Shashi Tharoor or, for example, a Barack Obama. All these people are great orators. So listening to them will definitely make you get better. And at the same time, you're also talking about watching them. When you watch them, look at their body language. How are they communicating? Is that smile coming through? How is that language percolating? All those things matter so much, right? And do you feel that sense of excitement when they're communicating with you, right? Those things matter. So when you watch them in action, you actually try to inculcate those things in yourself as well, right? So that is where I say listen and watch, especially the things that are relevant. So talk about podcasts and even things like, for example, even looking at your sitcoms, right? Or various serials that you may get in that particular language can also help you improve your communication skills. For example, in my case, watching Friends, it used to be a big sitcom in those days, and watching Friends actually helped me really improve my listening skills. And over a period of time, I started off by watching subtitles, and over a period of time, I completely eliminated the use of subtitles and I could actually understand what the actors were speaking. So that is how I inculcated my English skills as well. So this is where I'm saying listen, but at the same time, watch. Now, the second angle to listen and watch. Whenever you're communicating with someone, it's important to first listen to what the other person has to say. And then we have to basically assimilate what the other person is saying and then reciprocate with our answer. Most of the times, the reason for the challenge in communication in today's world is because we are only hearing to what the other person is saying. We are never really understanding or listening to what they're saying. So that is the most important thing. Whenever you're in any conversation, be it your boss, be it your boyfriend or your girlfriend, your spouse, your partner, your parents, your brothers, your siblings, your sister, whosoever it is, it's important. And most importantly, even in friends, it's important that you listen to the other person. What is it that they're trying to communicate? Assimilate what they have said and then try to answer back. And here's again, watching them can also help, because many a times there are so many things that are said without actually speaking the words. That is called body language. How are they communicating with you? What kind of a body language do they have? Do they have a closed body language? Do they have an open body language? What kind of emotions are they conveying? Are they happy? Are they sad? Are they disappointed? All those things can be figured out when you actually watch them closely. So listen and watch works in two ways. One, pick up your role models and listen and watch them very carefully and try to inculcate that in your life. And second, listen and watch any single person that you want to communicate effectively with, and base your communication looking at what they are doing and listening to what they are saying. That's very, very important. That answers the second aspect of classy, which is the L. Now, the next element is basically the A, and again, a very, very crucial aspect as well. So while I talked about listening and watching the other person that you're trying to communicate with, it's also important that whenever I'm about to speak in front of someone, what is the context, right? Analyze your audience. Is your audience a group of people? Is your audience a single person? And what kind of things does the audience like, right? So all of those things can also matter. So if you're talking to someone who's basically a very, direct person, and if you try to communicate and tell them stories, then this person is obviously not going to like your channel of communication, right? So you're trying to say something in the form of stories, but this person is extremely direct. That communication will not reach to that person at all. So it's important that you analyze your audience, right? It's important to understand what your audience is expecting and try to deliver a communication that is suited to that particular audience. And when you do that, automatically the chances of that audience accepting your speech or accepting what you're trying to communicate becomes that much more higher. That's the most important aspect, which is the analyzing of the audience. And you may obviously question that there will be many times when you do not know what that other person at the other end is all about, which is where, let's say, if you're talking to someone, when you open up or before you start talking, try listening to them more, right? It will give you a context of the way they are behaving, and it'll give you a clue of the kind of mindset that they have. And this is especially true in first conversations. Do not unnecessarily open your mouth, before you understand or get a context of what the other person is. Another way which can actually be approached here is to ask a lot of questions, especially when you're about to deliver a speech in front of an audience. Try to speak to the organizers and find out what kind of an audience is this. Unko kya pasand hai? What is it that they would like to listen? Or let's say, try and understand their demographic profile. Is this an audience of engineers? Is this an audience of students? Is this an audience of senior citizens? What kind of an audience is this, right? So once you get an understanding of the type of audience that is there in front of you, be it a group of people or an individual, you'll always be able to channelize your communication effectively. And when you channelize your communication effectively, you will automatically realize that this person or this group of people is able to understand you better than what would have happened if you had not analyzed your audience. And one thing which can always help here is to probe and ask many questions before that discussion or that meeting or that speech actually happens in front of this audience. And that is where you can actually do wonders by just analyzing your audience. So that's the A, analyzing your audience. What's the next important thing here? So we talk about the S, and what does this S stand for? It basically stands for staging the performance. Even before you go live with your performance, stage it, practice it, do it, right? And a lot of my students would understand, I keep saying this again and again, the importance of visualization. So even before you're sitting in the exam, you're visualizing that it is going on perfectly. You're visualizing, you're thinking that it is going on great. Similarly, before you get into any important conversation in your life, be it an appraisal meeting with a boss, be it an important proposal that you want to make to your, let's say, a better half or the person who you want to be with for the rest of your life, or it could be an important discussion with your parents, your friends, whatever it is. If that conversation is important to you, it's important that you actually have it staged. When I say staged, don't practice it in front of the other person directly, but here you have to play the role of that other person yourself and think through all those possible scenarios that when you're communicating or saying something, what would be the possible response of the other person, right? And always play a devil's advocate here, right? So when I say devil's advocate, think of all the things that can possibly go wrong and try to figure out an answer to those possible wrong scenarios as well. So what this does is that when you start working in this manner, you practice these conversations before they are actually happening. What happens is that subconsciously, you're also preparing for all those possible negative scenarios that could emerge. Whatever could go wrong, you're possibly thinking about what could be the response in that situation. So whenever something actually goes wrong, you're not unprepared. Your mind is already prepared for that scenario and you'll be able to tackle it because you've addressed it, right? That's a very important aspect of staging any communication. Any important communication that you're planning to have in your life, ensure that you've staged it, practiced it, realized all the possible scenarios that could emerge from that and actually have a response ready for those things. And if you do that effectively, trust me, your conversations will not fail at all. In fact, you would come out successful. Another important aspect while having these staging conversations with yourself, right? And of course, make sure that you do it in front of a mirror and when you're alone, because when you do it in front of many people, people might think that you're actually, right? So do it when you're alone, and more importantly, evaluate all the negative scenarios and have a response ready for that. But the other important angle here is, while you're staging it, it's also important that while you're preparing for all the negative scenarios, you're also visualizing that everything is going to go perfectly, everything is going to go smoothly. And when you go in with that positive intent, trust me, nothing can go wrong at all, right? So that's the S that I'm talking about, which is staging every single important conversation in your life. So the question that will be coming in your mind is, what is this next S all about, right? So the next S is fairly simple. You've staged that conversation. What's important now is to actually have that conversation in reality. So once you've done the net practice, it is time for the live to actually happen. And this is where majority of the problems happen in our lives in terms of us becoming master communicators, because most of us get cold feet or ek dar baith jata hai before we actually want to have these conversations. It's an important conversation and we say that chalo yaar baad mein bol denge, we'll talk about it later. And once that opportunity slips out of our hands, then that opportunity never comes back again, right? And because of the fact that we could not tell someone else how we felt at that point of time, we do not have the power to change their behavior towards us, right? Now there are these host of conversations, right? Telling someone that you love them, thanking someone for their efforts, conveying to someone that something is not right and it needs to be corrected, telling your boss that you're putting in that effort day in and day out, and if there is something that is making you uncomfortable, communicating those things as well with the people who matter in your lives. And most of the times we get cold feet and we just let go of these conversations. But trust me, these are opportunities that we're letting go to make others understand us better. The more we communicate, the more others understand us better. The more others understand us better, the better we can communicate with them, right? So it is very, very important not just to have those staged discussions, staged conversations, the net practice, but also the live performance, which means the actual conversation with the concerned person. So speak up. Do not just sit there, because there's a lot of things that are happening in our lives, and if we lose the opportunity of speaking up at the right time, we may never get that opportunity again, right? So speaking up is the next tip on this list. Now you might be thinking, sab kuch to kar diya, ab bacha kya hai, right? So this is the most important one, which is the why. So why has multiple angles here. So the why also talks about why are you having this conversation, WHY. Why are you making this effort to talk to this person? What impact can this conversation have? If you're delivering a speech, what change can it make in the lives of the people who are listening to it? For example, when I'm delivering this session today, what kind of an impact can it have on all of you in terms of making you better communicators in your lives? So all of that is very, very important. So which is where the why, as to why you are basically having that conversation, having that discussion, having that speech or delivering that speech becomes very, very important. And once you understand that why, you will always have that yearning to succeed. You'll always be eager to want to succeed because you know the reason why you're having this conversation and the importance of that conversation. And once you know the importance of a conversation, you will ensure that you do your best to succeed in that conversation, because you know that this conversation, this meeting, this speech is very important. It has an impact on someone else's life, and obviously because it has an impact on someone else's life, it has an impact on you as well. So which is where understand the why. Why are you having this conversation? Why are you having this discussion? And once you have that why very clear, the importance of that conversation will become clear. And if the importance of that conversation is clear, you will always yearn for success. You will always want that conversation to be successful, and you will start visualizing that this conversation indeed is a success, right? And that is what makes you a master communicator. It's not just about following all the elements of class, but what makes you classy is the why that is incorporated in it, right? You have to visualize that this conversation is turning out to be a success even before the conversation happens. And once you start thinking about it positively, trust me, the result will also be positive. Right, so that is the culmination of what I want to communicate with you guys, right? So the most important angle is it's not one of these elements, but all 6 of them that need to work in unison. If they work, if you keep practicing on this front, trust me, you can break huge barriers in communication. So this is a model that has helped me immensely over the years, and I want to share it with you guys because I feel that this can also make a difference in your lives. Be it that next important interview, be it that next important conversation that you're having with anyone that matters in your life, have that discussion with that boss, a spouse, or a partner, or a friend, or a relative, or a family member who's very close to you. This model can really help you succeed in those conversations. And the more you start applying this model in your day-to-day lives, you'll realize that it becomes a part of your system. And once it becomes a part of your system, every single conversation that you have will turn out to be a success. So revisiting the model once more, we talk about classy, starting with the C. In fact, that's the most important angle, which is having that confidence, have that faith and that belief that what you're communicating is going to be good. Don't be bothered too much about grammar, diction, all of those things will come automatically. So don't get too much hassled about that. Confidence is the most important thing. Second is to listen and watch. Listen and watch in 2 contexts. One is listen and watch to your role models. Understand, assimilate how they are delivering, how they are talking, the intonations and different aspects of their voice and tones and everything. And also look at how they behave when they're talking. So that can make a huge difference. Listen to podcasts, basically watch different sitcoms that can also have a huge impact. And second angle of listening and watching is to basically listen and watch the people who you're trying to communicate with, observe them very carefully, because that can have a huge impact in your communication. Next thing that we're talking about is basically the audience analysis, which means you ask probing questions before you go into a meeting, go into a discussion. Understand what the audience is, and once you understand the type of your audience, then you can tailor your communication even better. Next thing that we're talking about is, before having any important conversation, stage it, visualize it, do it before it actually happens. Do every single permutation combination of whatever can go wrong and prepare your answers accordingly. But having said that, visualize a positive outcome. So once you decide to do all the devil's advocate angles, which is all the negative sides, but at the same time visualize it ending positively, it can have a tremendous impact. The next thing that we're talking about is not just having that staging, but actually going and speaking up. Speak up, because that's the opportunity given to you, and if you don't use that opportunity, do not seize that opportunity, you'll never get that opportunity again. So speaking up is extremely important. And last but not the least, understand the why of your communication. Why are you communicating? What kind of an impact can it have? What is its importance? And once you understand that importance, you will automatically want it to be a success. And if you want it to be a success, you'll automatically start visualizing it from a positive thought process. So that is the classy hack to succeeding in communication in the 21st century. And if you follow this to the T, trust me that you will effectively become a better communicator with each passing day, and you will be on the road to becoming a master communicator in the coming weeks, months, and years. So with that, this is Ravi signing off. I hope you enjoyed this particular session, and if you stick to it, trust me, every single conversation that you have going forward is going to be extremely fruitful, extremely beneficial, and will end extremely positively in the way you want it to end. So with that, we come to the end of this particular session, and I look forward to seeing you in the next session with some more interesting concepts, some more interesting anecdotes, some more interesting life skills. But until then, this is Ravi signing off. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend ahead. See you guys.